You're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Green Bay Packers content, created for the fans by the fans. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know whenever we go live. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Packers_access. Go Pack Go. Enjoy the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. We're flying solo this evening. Tim, a little under the weather, and Emilio probably already in that race car bed. So we'll be in here chatting it up with you guys, obviously in the comments section, and talking about all the action from today's games around the NFL. We're going to give you an updated playoff look and a couple other key things geared around the Packers as we get ready to head into this week here. Now, obviously tonight we've got, I think, the Chiefs and the Chargers about to kick off, so that should be a dandy as well. All right, hopefully everybody's doing well in the chat this evening. I know we got a herd already in here. We're just going to kind of hang out and talk ball if that's cool with you guys. Obviously, the Packers didn't play today. We'll cover all the scores around the league. We'll hit on all that. And we might get into some PFF stuff as well, but might walk around the old NFL Twitter too. I like doing that just because you can kind of get the latest update on all the news and notes and all that good stuff, as long as you're staying away from the toxic people. Josh Martin in the chat says Bills are now 1-3 against good teams this year. They're considered Super Bowl contenders, but with us, people say we're frauds. Make that make sense. I can't help you, Josh. And you know, you guys know where I stand on this, just in the NFL as a whole. Personally, I think the worst team in the league is this close to the best team in the league. I mean, if you listen to the show consistently, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the chat does, I know we got a bunch of regulars in here that I see. It's every week somebody upsets someone and we're all, whoa, we're surprised, right? But you shouldn't be, because again, in the National Football League, the talent is so close from the worst team to the best. It really comes down to game planning. And sometimes, you know, how an organization is ran, I think plays a big role in it, and kind of having everyone's attitude right in the locker room. So the point is, the goal is to get into the playoffs, right? And once you get into the playoffs, man, it now becomes literally 4 quarters at a time, 4 quarters at a time, 4 quarters at a time. How do we put together the best game plan to beat this team? And I say that because, like you pointed out, the Rams beating the Bills, it didn't surprise me, although there at the end, the Bills really screwed themselves. I don't know if you guys, how many in the chat were watching it, but basically they had 3 timeouts and they were down to the 1-yard line. Okay. And keep in mind, there's about a minute left in the game. So I'm thinking, okay, let's pass the ball. Let's try to throw the ball, and maybe like a sprint right option or something, or, you know, something like that. Get Josh Allen on the edge. That way, if he gets in trouble, throw it away, you stop the clock. And instead, what they decided to do was do a quarterback sneak. And when they did the quarterback sneak, they got stuffed. They had to use one of their timeouts. Well, now you got to do an onside kick, right? If you get the ball back. So that really was a tough break. It was just bad coaching. I mean, Bill Belichick would have walked his guys through that scenario 1,000 times before the game. And, before the game, that specific game would have happened. It could have been, 2 years prior that a situation like that had popped back up too. But that's what we're talking about, situational football. Like in that situation, what they did was they had to call a timeout. Then the next play, they sneak it in and they actually get it in, right? And so now you've only got 2 timeouts, and you've got to kick an onside kick as opposed to kick off to the other team. I still would have tried the onside kick, because you really got, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but you kind of look at it like a 50-50 chance of recovering the ball, right? It's probably far, far, far less than that, but just, kind of theoretically speaking there. Still try the onside kick, but you got 3 timeouts, and the other team's going to be forced to throw on a down and potentially stop the clock too and give the ball back to them, right? But really screwed the pooch there. And that's just another perfect example of the LA Rams are not considered one of the best teams in the league. But there's no doubt in my mind that Matt Stafford can win a Super Bowl, right? He's proven it. They've got one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They got Kyron Williams, if he's still healthy. I'm not sure if he's still healthy or not. One of the best backs in the league, right? Have one of the highest PFF grades. Sean McVay has proven he's, an absolute stud at head coach, being the youngest, not just the youngest coach to coach in a Super Bowl, but also the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl. So they could get hot and go on a run here if they make it into the playoffs. And we'll hit on that here in a little bit as we go through the scores and all that good stuff. We'll give you a playoff picture. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. People look at the Packers and, oh, well, it should have been, man, the Packers almost beat the Lions, and the Lions are arguably the best team in the league. But instead it was, well, the Lions are banged up. It's always but when it comes to the national media and the Green Bay Packers. And that's okay, man. We've known it's been like that for a very long time, right? Holmes in the chat says, you will be happy to have the confirmation that the Bears still suck. Boy, it was bad. It was rough. I was tweeting about that earlier. Holmes also said the Rams tuned up the Bills, I think, as well. That's when we were just talking about. The Bears, man, it was bad. Bayud, bad. It was horrible, man. Well, let's just do it. Let's jump into the scores here. I'm going to keep the chat up too. I'll try to keep an eye on it, guys. So in case somebody supers, or if I see something here that I can catch in real time without having to stop and stop talking and actually read. But let's just dive into it here, man, as we look at all the games that were played today. And I'll try to do it in order if I can. Obviously, we got the Packers and the Lions there on Thursday night. 34-31 Lions defeat us as we dropped to 9-4. They improved to 12-1. Look at that away record for the Packers, too, though. 4-2 on the road. Pretty impressive, man. Pretty cool. All right, so next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Buccaneers defeat the Las Vegas Raiders 28-13 in that game. All right, let's see if we can get the box score without it going too wonky. Oh, yeah, we're good to go. Now, when I go back to the games, it'll be all the hell you watch. So let's see who kind of stood out in this game. Baker Mayfield, thrown for almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks. Aiden O'Connell played like cheeks, 11 of 19 for 104. Desmond Ridder, 12 of 18 for 101. And Aiden O'Connell did have an interception there. So really that's a pretty big turnover day there. Rashad White, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 17 carries for 90 yards. So obviously the Buccaneers get the win there. Hey, that wasn't too bad. We're back on track, ain't we? Just a little bit off here. Or are we? No, they shuffled. God, I'll never understand technology. I will never understand it. All right, next game. Let's go. Let's talk Bears-Niners here real quick, okay? Like you said, the 49ers absolutely boat raced the Bears 38-13. Seeing that it's a team that everybody was saying was just going to have one of the most dynamic offenses in the league, absolutely hilarious, man. 38-13 against a Niners team that we all know has been struggling. They're obviously 6-7. They're 4-3 at home. But look at the Bears away record there, 0-6. We always talk about, a good defense travels and the running game travels, right? But sometimes the passing game doesn't. And you can see there at one point, I think they said in the first half, Caleb Williams had like 5 yards passing, or maybe negative 5 yards, something like that. It was insane. And again, there's going to be ups and downs with him, but all the issues that I was like, man, outside of the arm talent, is he going to be able to handle being an NFL quarterback? You could still kind of see them emerging, in my opinion. Like it's still there. Excuse me just a second, guys. Let me close this door. I apologize. It's dinner time for the pups, so they're fired up down there. Yeah, Badger caught it. Sorry about that, bub. So, yeah, the Bears, man, where do they go from here? They got to find, was it 4 yards? Holmes said it was 4 yards, Clay. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Obviously, they got shut out in the first half, which is just absolutely wild to me. Again, it's not like the Niners have been playing good either. I don't even know if Fred Warner played in that game either, with that ankle. I thought he went on injured reserve, but I could be wrong. But, yeah, just man, like if you're a Bears fan, right? If you're a Bears fan, what is this right here? Oh Lord. Okay, here we go. Everybody on the podcast is going, what's going on, Clayton? We got a Lions fan in here acting like an idiot. So there we go. It's amazing how we're in their head, isn't it? This is what I was talking about, man. They are all too hell right now over the fact that a bunch of different NFL teams fans kind of came together and was calling the officiating out in that game. But man, just absolutely wild. They are, man. It's been strange. If you guys follow my Twitter, we we cooked the guy. Boy, it was bad. We cooked him bad. I kind of felt bad. Then I'm like, man, you're going to go to Twitter and put out a video just absolutely bad mouthing every Packer fan as if you know everyone, yeah, let's go ahead and cook his ass. Let's throw him in the oven real quick. So anyway, back to the Bears Niners. Let's look at the score real quick, or the box score, I should say. Caleb Williams, 17 of 23 for 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. One thing I will say about Caleb, if I was a Bears fan, I would be miserable, first of all. But if I was a Bears fan and I was trying to find the positives in Caleb Williams' game, it's definitely that he doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions. But look at that number on the right there. That's just as bad. It really is. I mean, you talk about killing drives. 7 sacks for 46 yards. And people will say, well, it's because they got a bad offensive line. Listen, their offensive line isn't good, don't get me wrong. But last I heard, he led the league in sacks taken where he held the ball for 4 seconds or longer. Like, that's 123.5% on the quarterback, right? So Caleb Williams continuing to struggle with that internal clock anyway. DeAndre Swift only 14 carries for only 38 yards. Brock Purdy doing Brock Purdy things, though. And listen, that Bears defense is solid. We know that, right? We've talked about it. They're a legit top 5 defense. Brock Purdy was 20 of 25 for 325 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks, was only sacked 1 time. There, George Kittle went off. He had a day, 6 catches for 151 yards. And then Jawan Jennings continues to improve as well, 7 catches for 90 yards. So obviously the 49ers boat raced the Bears 38-13. They improved to 6-7 as the Bears fall to 4-9. You just hate to see it. Hate to see it. So, all right, let's move it along. Bills Rams, that one just wrapped up a second ago. We kind of talked about it a little bit. The Rams pull one out there at home, 44-42, just an absolute shootout between Matthew Stafford and Josh Allen. The Bills now fall to 10-3. The Rams improve to 7-6 in the NFC. Up next, the Seahawks at the Cardinals. This one's kind of important, right? Because we got the Seahawks coming up. The Seahawks on the road in Arizona win 30-18. They got off to a fast start too. If you notice here, looks like they scored 24 points in the first half and then finished only scoring 6 in the second half. So really want to go watch that tape of the first half of play for the Seahawks and the Cardinals game and see what the Seahawks did in the first half that worked so well. So again, 30-18. Let's look at the box score and see what we got coming up here, guys. Geno Smith, 24 of 30, pretty efficient, right? 233 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was not sacked. Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. So they're definitely running the rock out there. Wide receiver, play Jackson Smith and Jigba, 5 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. He caught all 5 targets. So Jackson Smith and Jigba really starting to crank it up. Zach Charbonnet also had 7 catches for 59 yards. Holy cow, man. There's a dude, as Tim would say, here's the guy. This guy right here, man, you're talking about 29 touches, and he caught all 7 of his targets. So 29 touches for over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big day there. So you want to talk about Tuesday players in terms of recent bias, right? Yeah, you gotta look at Zach Charbonnet for sure. And DK Metcalf's still on that roster as well. Looked like he was targeted 6 times, 4 catches for 49 yards. See if they got any kind of pass rush here kicking. Rayshon Jenkins with a sack. Jonathan Hankins with a sack. So they as a team, they finished with 2 sacks there. And it looks like the Cardinals did not get a single sack. So sounds like the Seattle Seahawks definitely protected the football well there. Again, they get a huge win over the Cardinals on the road. They now improve to 8-5, and we'll talk about them obviously as the week goes on. Next game, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Raiders win. The Buccaneers win 28-13. We already talked about the statistics there a little bit. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers improved to 10-3 as they beat the Browns 27-14. Russell Wilson, boys, it looked like he just needed somebody to believe in him. Today, 15-26, only 158 yards passing, but 2 touchdowns, no picks, was only sacked 1 time. They got that thing cranking. And you see, look at the multitude of targets too, or at least different receivers. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different receivers that Russell Wilson hit today. And it looks like they got a pretty good running back by committee there as well. Najee Harris, 16 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. Jaylen Warren, 9 carries for 47 yards. So Pittsburgh's rolling, man. They are rolling. They've got their quarterback, it seems like. Let's see what else we got. We got Panthers at the Eagles. This one, remember us talking about a huge bet came in on that game, and it got a lot of people thinking that this might be an upset by the Panthers. They may have been onto something, man, because I really would have expected the Eagles to beat the 3-10 Panthers a lot worse than this, but they only defeated them 22-16. So I'm sure they covered the spread. I'm sure it was more than a 6-point spread, probably at least 6.5. But the Eagles improved to 11-2. As like I said, they defeat the Carolina Panthers 22-16. Let's see, you had the Saints defeating the New York Giants in the Toilet Bowl there. One thing I will say, matter of fact, let me go to my Twitter. I won't put it on the screen, but I'll read it to you guys because I've seen it come across the wire earlier today before we went live. Let me see if I can find it. I know it's on here somewhere. Maybe I did not. Derek Carr got injured is what it sounds like. So Derek Carr ended up leaving the game. I think they said that it's his non-throwing hand, like it might be a fracture or something. So, yeah, there you go. As Badger Trio said, Carr broke his hand. Obviously, listen, we're not rooting for anybody to get injured. You know how we roll here. But when you look at the schedule, we do have the Saints coming up after Seattle. So, and that's going to be Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field. If they're without Derek Carr, they're already without Taysom Hill. That's going to be pretty tough on them. So we'll take all the help we can get. Obviously, like I said, we're not going to root for injuries, but that would definitely benefit the Packers. Now, the Saints got the win over the Giants, but they only scored 14 points on the New York Giants, who are 2-11. That really says a lot. So you can't overlook any opponent, but we know the Saints are banged up, no doubt about it. So looked like that must have happened at the end of the game, huh, guys? Because they're not showing a single snap here for the backup quarterback, Jake Hayner. That's really interesting. Let me know, Badger Trio. Did that happen like on the last play of the game or something, man? If you guys find that out for me, put it in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye there. Because Derek Carr, 20 of 31 for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Jake Hayner, like I said, it looks like he got sacked once. He never threw the ball, so he probably just handed it off, would be my guess. That's probably what happened there. So there you go with the Saints beating the Giants. And again, the Saints will improve now to 5-8 as the Giants fall to 2-11. They're going to be in the bidding for a quarterback in the draft, that's for sure. Then you had the Falcons at the Vikings. The Vikings absolutely demolished the Falcons. Boy, that coverage looked horrible. Kirk Cousins just kept throwing the football to the other team. As you see here, Kirk Cousins had 2 interceptions. I think he threw 3 and 1 got called back. So 23 of 37 for 344 yards passing, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was sacked once. That lost 6 yards. That's a tough look. Look at Sam Darnold, boys. We got to stop pretending like this guy can't play football. And listen, I know the Cardinals, they played like absolute dog crap today on defense, but Sam Darnold, 22 of 28 for 347 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and he was sacked 4 times. Listen, KOC got that thing humming. There's no two ways about it, man. So here we go, Bates. Thank you so much, buddy. Derek Carr was injured with about 4 minutes left in the game. All right, got it, man. Got it. So we'll obviously be looking for all the medical information that comes out over the next couple of days. That'll kind of set up whether or not he will play in Green Bay in a couple of weeks. And I'm pretty sure, what's their record, the Saints? Let me go back. Again, the Vikings get a big win there, 42-21 over the Falcons. The Saints are 5-8. I can't imagine they're in the playoff hunt still. So why would they risk it, right? Why would they put Carr out there for him to potentially hurt it worse? And I know it's non-throwing hand, but I could see it being something like, hey, let's just shut it down for 4 weeks. Let's get it surgically repaired, whatever you need to do. You know what I mean? So we'll see, though. We'll see how that shakes out. And then, of course, the Dolphins beat the New York Jets as Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets fall to 3-10. The Dolphins improved to 6-7. The Dolphins won 32-26 in this game. Let's see how old A-Rod did in this game. 27 of 39 for 339 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So the stat line looks good. And we know sometimes that can be a little bit manipulative, but it sounds like Aaron had a pretty good game. And it sounds like he's planning on playing next year again, too. But Garrett Wilson went off 7 catches for 114 yards. Devontae Adams, 9 catches for 109 yards. Just wasn't enough. That defense evidently has fallen completely apart since they fired Saleh. That's wild to think about. It really is. Let's see. Defensively, the Jets. They didn't have a single sack. I've been thinking about this here lately. I want to hear what you guys think. With this defense we're running, right? It's there's a multiple facets to it, right? You can't really just dub it as it's this defense. If you were to try to stamp it with a name, though, it would be 4-3 cover 3 is what you would call it, right? Because the majority of the coverage you're calling is a cover 3 zone defense, and some match, some not. Sometimes you're blitzing and you're still playing cover 3. I would call it a 4-3 cover 3. It's the same thing the Jets run. It's the same thing the Texans run. It's the same thing the Niners run. We were under the impression that hiring Joe Barry was going to get us the Vic Fangio defense. And if you guys watched the show last year, I pointed out all season long, we are not running Vic Fangio's defense. Like, we're playing more middle field. We were playing fifth most middle field close in the game. When you're playing Fangio's defense, you're predominantly playing what we call quarters with match principles. So there was match principles in the middle field close we were playing, but it was cover 3 matches, essentially what we were playing the majority of the time. And I say all that because, people kind of caught on to that Fangio defense, although Fangio in Philly is absolutely dominating with it. He's got arguably the best defense in the league in terms of yards, total yards allowed per game. And my question is, I wonder if the league's kind of catching on to this 4-3 cover 3. And again, there's cover 1 and everything mixed in too, but I'm just talking about this Robert Saleh style defense. I mean, when you look at our defense, and we could pull up the rankings if we want to here in a second. Matter of fact, I think that probably would be a good idea. Let me pull that up real quick. Let's just, before I start talking out of my ass here and saying something that isn't true based off of emotion and how I think the season's going right now, let's actually see if we can pull it up. And this was all triggered obviously by the Jets game and the fact that they got 32 hung on them running pretty much the same defense we're running. Jaguars also defeated the Titans 10-6. They went to extra innings in that one, I'm sure, but that's wild. Jaguars were blanked the first 3 quarters, scored 10 points in the fourth quarter and won the game. Now I know why I seen Will Levis throwing his helmet across the field as that game kind of came down the wire there. So again, that was just kind of your walk around the league. Let's look at our defensive rankings real quick. I'm eager to see this. And then when we get through with this, what we're going to do is we will actually jump in and look at the playoff picture, get an updated playoff picture. But let's go to scoring defense first. Let's go opponent points per play. All right. So opponent points per play, Green Bay is now officially out of the top 10, 11th at 0.343. Okay. So we're right there on the cusp of being a top 10 scoring defense. All right. Now let's go to overall yardage. Let's just go total offense, yards per play. In yards per play, maybe I did that. Actually did not do defense, did I? Total defense is what we're looking for. Opponent yards per play. The Packers are now 12th. So in terms of yardage and scoring or points allowed, we are officially, look at me, I'm going to get quick here. Bang, look at that. Get out of here. We're officially outside of the top 10. You guys know last year with Joe Barry, we finished 12th, right? So when we look at these top defenses in the league, and I know the Jets are struggling as of late, but you see they're still ranked second in opponent yards per play. So that would suggest that defense is not dead, right? Houston's 5th in opponent yards per play. So it kind of takes us back to the original argument, right? Where I don't say our argument, I say my argument, right? You guys know where I stand on this. It's like, man, how many defensive coordinators are we going to go through before we change up what we're looking for in a defensive player in the draft, especially seeing how many first round picks we spend on it. There's a multitude of ways you could attack that, but I don't know if that makes sense or not, but in terms of opponent yards per play, there's other teams that run this scheme that's doing just fine, right? So let's go to scoring defense, again, opponent points per play, and just double check it here real quick and see if the points match up too. Let's see. So points per play, a little bit different, right? I don't see anybody that runs it unless I'm overlooking them here in the top 10. We actually have the best points per play of anyone who runs our defense. I guess next would be the Jets at 14th at 0.360. And then you got Houston 15th. So yeah, the 3 top defenses, teams that run our defense are officially outside of the top 10 in scoring in terms of points per play. So that's really interesting. Get your all's take in that in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye here. Let's see here what Holmes says. Holmes says if we're going to play cover 3, our guys need to be closer to the line of scrimmage. X can't be 25 yards off the ball. You've seen that in that game there against the Lions, that's for sure. I know there was 1 or 2 plays on Chalk Talk where we showed Xavier McKinney playing post safety up top. I'm kind of the opinion too, like if you're going to play someone that deep, you don't really plan on them playing the ball. It's more of like a safety valve, right? So why not put your best defender closer to the ball in that situation? Because we know X will play in the box and he'll play post safety. Typically, you want your best safety to play post safety to take the middle of the field away. And if you guys will recall, in that game against the Lions, they never took a shot, did they? They never took a shot down the field. It was always that somewhere between 8 to 15 yards, whether it was kind of a hybrid post or a dig, right? So it worked in that sense. You kept everything in front of you. But I understand the frustration, Holmes. The other thing, too, you got to take into consideration is Evan Williams left the game, although I didn't look at Zane Anderson's play and think, man, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain, right? So, yeah, gonna be interesting, man. Holmes in the chat says Saban covers 7, uses a lot of man match principles that addresses short game, run, and outbreaks. Man, I went into a rabbit hole one day of teaching clinics, purchased a couple of them from assistants from Nick Saban, and it's really, really interesting to learn the triangle and the box approach and how they meet their run fits and all that. With Saban being out of the game now, you're probably not going to get people as interested in one specific defensive-minded coach in NCAA to go, hey, let's try to gear up and figure out what they're doing, right, and highlight it in a teaching tape. But it was really interesting. Essentially, when I say triangle and box, all it means is staying +1 in your coverage. That's it. If you got 2 receivers, you make a triangle around them with 3 defenders. If you got a side where there's 3 defenders, you make a box around them with 4 defenders. That's all that means. And it's always staying +1 in the hat count in the passing game. And then, of course, they get I wouldn't say aggressive, but they're very, very smart about how they meet the run fits and still get into their spots in coverage, if that makes sense. So let's see what else everybody says here in terms of the defense. Coach Lynn in the chat says, I like the scheme, but we did not draft 43 players like edge, linebacker, and even corners. We are a year away on D, I think. We can still do damage this season. I think that's a really accurate assessment, right? You went out and you got X, and everybody knows that was a slam dunk home run of a pickup in free agency. You got Edgerrin Cooper, who I personally think should be the future Mike, just based off of how he plays and his versatility. But really the reality is you need 2 Mikes. We talk of Mike and Will all the time, but as you guys have seen on Chalk Talk all year long, they are so interchangeable, man. They're so interchangeable. In some cases, you'll hear us say Tampa 2 Will instead of Tampa 2 Mike, right? So you need 2 inside linebackers that can really play football. Now, I know Coach Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but you kind of side with Tim that you think Quay's the guy. He's not going anywhere, right? And again, correct me if I've misunderstood you there. I'm kind of the opinion that I think we can do better there, right? Edgerrin Cooper has shown, hey, this guy's going to be a dog. If you're making that kind of impact as a rookie, he's going to be a dog. And I remember people talking about his FBI coming into the season as well. So I'm looking for that next great Edgerrin Cooper. I'm looking for the next great C.J. Mosley, Fred Warner. You don't want to hold back on that key position for this specific defense without you don't want to hold back on it by refusing to look for the next great mock backer or inside backer, right? Look at the 49ers. You say, well, they got Fred Warner and they're struggling a little bit too, right? Yeah, but Fred Warner's got a broken ankle from what I understand. So it's obvious Fred Warner's having a down season for that reason. But when you think of like the great defenses, even when Carolina went on their little run back in, I think it was around 2012 or so, you guys remember, what was their inside linebacker's name? He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm trying to think of his name now. Luke Kuechly. Is that his name? I think it was Luke Kuechly. Absolutely dominant. And that defense rose up. When Luke Kuechly decided to retire early at a young age, that defense went all to hell, right? And they haven't been back. So got to get that inside backer for sure, man. AFAM Clayton listening to coaching books on his Walkman. Sounds about right. It's actually a Discman, all right? Get off my back. I got the Discman. So, we've had to prop up that little that lens in there a couple of times. Once it starts to drop and the thing stops reading the CD, you got to make adjustments because we were too poor to get the replacement. But Coach Lynn says, I do, but I think we have not seen much of Cooper and Quay together. I would like to see more of them before I say for sure. Got it. That's very fair. That's a very fair statement. I think it's a fascinating conversation for sure. There you go. AFAM talking about it. Remember Dre Greenlaw destroying us. Absolutely, man. That's really, I think if Dre Greenlaw doesn't get hurt early in that Super Bowl when they were running out on the field or whatever, I think they got a good chance of winning that Super Bowl. I really do. I think that was huge. The fact that they had to throw out a backup out there. I'm trying to think, it was one of our old backups too. I can't remember who it was. But, yeah. Carl K in the chat says, how did Fred Warner test for RAS? Thank you so much, Bates. You are the man. First of all, brother Paria says, is Luke Kuechly. Cool. Glad I got that right. Let's see here. So United Bates chimed in with Warner. Warner's RAS was a 9.68. It's like the perfect storm of a football player that has an extremely high FBI. And like, it's one thing to have the physical tools. Like, let me put it this way. You score a high RAS, you go to the combine and you just knock it out of the park like Quay did. Quay knocked it out of the park. What they're not really judging there is when they mentally make the decision to shoot that shot, right? Like, for example, the drills you see is when, especially the agility drills, they're back, right, left. It's just them reacting to a command. And I know some people look at that and go, well, that's the decision. No, it ain't. It's being able to read, understand exactly what the offense is trying to do, which is more than just a go, get back, go left, right? It's way more than that. It's understanding leverage and which shoulder to try to attack in terms of where your help is in tackling, all those things. It's a totally different ballgame. Fred Warner's got that. Fred Warner he not only does he have the athletic ability when he's healthy to be, physically dominant on the field compared to everybody else around him, but he's also a half a step early. Like, let me give you an example. If you guys go back and watch Ray Lewis, the last 5 years he was in the league, Ray Lewis lost a step. There's no two ways about it. Like, he was a little bit bigger and he'd really lost the step. But he made it up because he was a half a step moving before everybody else because he understood everything the offense was trying to throw at him, right? Fred Warner, to me, has the physical tools and he has the mental capability of making those decisions just like that. And one thing I'll say about Edgerrin Cooper, it felt like that's how he was. Granted, it was a minute amount of snaps before he got banged up, but, man, you've seen it constantly. Like, he would shoot his shot, and 9 times out of 10, he was making the right decision. And if he's going to make a mistake, he's going to make it big because he missed the tackle or what have you. I can handle that. What I can't handle is the Darnell Savage approach, where it's, okay, I'm not going to play too aggressive, but I'm not going to play too conservative. And now you're in no man's land, and the offense is in complete control. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how the offseason goes for sure. And again, I'm trying to curb all that because obviously we've got a lot of football left. It's going to be a lot of fun here in the playoffs too. So, Joseph in the chat, good to see you, buddy. Says we miss Edgerrin the most against screens. That's a great point. Being able to read that and attack. And again, the thing that Detroit did so well with those screens, in my opinion, was play action to the screen, faking the ball to the running back, getting the backers to bot, drop, and then you dump the screen. Boy, oh boy. It was Ben Johnson. I'm so glad he's not going to be with the Lions next year. So glad that he's not going to be with the Lions next year. I see your message there, Bates. Let me see if I can get it pulled up real quick, bub. Let's see here. Bang. So you got his actual RAS. All right, man, with the BYU Cougars. I didn't know that, man. I bet Coach Lynn loves it. Coach Lynn, didn't you have some kind of ties or something? Or it seemed like you mentioned something about BYU before. I could be wrong, though. Let me throw the screen grab in here. And let's look at Fred Warner's RAS real quick since you guys are asking about it. Let's see. Bang there. Just a second. Oh, of course, I got to delete something. Tim going to be mad if I delete this, boys. I got to be careful. We got to keep that. What a creeper that dude was. Unbelievable. What can we delete here? Give me just a second. I'm sorry, guys. We can get rid of week 14. Let's do it. All right. So Fred Warner. Let's take a quick look. And this is an old RAS. So hopefully I can read it okay. Sometimes the older RAS is like reading a separate language here. But again, Joseph, good to see you in here, buddy. Appreciate you. Man, these bots are legit spamming in here. That's wild how quickly they're right back in. All right, so here we go. Fred Warner, 9.68 RAS. Vertical jump, 38.5, scored a 9.49. His broad jump scored a 7.57. Short shuttle, a 7.22. And his three-cone drill, a 9.11. So he got a great agility grade. He got a great explosion grade. And then 40-yard dash in terms of speed and all that good stuff. His speed was elite. So 40-yard dash was a 4.64, which landed him an 8.16 score. His 20-yard split was 2.65, which is a 9.12 in RAS. 10-yard split was a 1.55, which equaled a 9.74 RAS. So what that tells you is the 40-yard dash, he scored higher in the 10-yard split side as opposed to the 40-yard side. So that's that first step twitch. So he's got that literally that elite ability to take that first step and move very, very quickly. And then you couple that with, like I said, the FBI, and that's exactly what you get there. Wow, look at that, man. 20.6 miles per hour is what he was clocked at. Imagine having that dude running at you at 20.6 miles an hour. Lord have mercy. That's crazy. All right, let's see where we're at on run defense real quick, okay? And then we'll go to pass defense, and then we'll move on to the playoff picture. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Hit that like button if you don't care. Help us boost the algorithm here and help other fans find this channel and find this content. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on the Sunday evening as the Kansas City Chiefs are now leading 3-0 in the first quarter, about 7 minutes left. All right, so run defense. This is what I was talking about, guys. One of the things that improved big time this year was the run defense. We're tied for 5th in the league at 4.1 yards per carry allowed. Okay, so let's look at the other defenses that are around us. The Jets, we're right there with us, 4.1. That's pretty wild. I don't see Houston here anywhere. Are they a little further down? So they're at 4.4, so they're tied for 15. But we're a legit top 5 run defense. That's legit. A top 5 run defense in opponent yards per rush attempt. So the run defense has been solid. And again, we talked about this a little bit last night, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's so true. And I was taught this a long time ago. You can't take away everything on defense. You just can't. There's no perfect defense where it's like, okay, we can take away the shot play while we take away the crossers, while we take away the run, while we take away the screen. You've got to really game plan and understand in real time, all right, what's their tendencies when they're in a 2x2 set or a 3x1 set. They like to run a slip screen to the weak side in a 3x1 set. Like, they love to run dagger out of dubs, all these things, right? Like that's how you kind of key in and you're mentally prepared to withstand that attack when they do try to gouge you, when they may have you in kind of a tough situation. So the point is you got to choose, what are you going to take away? And there's going to be ramifications in what you give up. So what are we taking away this year? We are choosing to stop the run. How many years have we heard fans beg for that? The run defense is horrible. The run defense is horrible. We're top 5 in run defense. Okay. So what's happening? You're not hitting home with the pass rush. And I'm telling you, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but we've talked about it all year long of this is why the pass rush isn't as effective. Look at how they're rushing. You've got one guy hitting a double team, and he's not even trying to get to the quarterback. He's just kind of fading back and looking for a rushing lane and a throwing lane, right? So you're bringing 4, but you're only bringing 3. And it's not all the time, but a good chunk of the time. And you could tell that that's to key in on the run and also try to take away throwing lanes in specific situations. Some cases where we played a lot of mobile quarterbacks in the first 4 or 5 weeks, it was designed to occupy a double team, touch spy. We're going to bring the pressure from one side. When I say pressure, I don't mean blitz. I mean two of the four rushers, right? Two of the four are coming from one side, which is going to flush them in the other direction. So what you need is contain, and you cover after you occupy the double team with the touch spy. You take the mid rushing lane away, that type of thing. But more of the story is we're choosing as a defense to take away the run. That's what we're doing. Okay. Now, again, by doing that, your pass rush is going to struggle. Okay. That's the way it is. You can turn your guys loose and let them rush upfield. We did it last game, right? What happened last game? You guys remember? We showed 2 different explosives where guys split the one gap, just one gap approach. They were in the backfield before the back even had the ball. And what happened? The running back ran right by them. And that's the problem. So you could tell we really tried to pin our ears back and go after the quarterback, and it bit us in the ass on a couple of explosives. Although I felt like we still kept their run game in check. All it takes is one explosive on a drive. And you heard me say it 1,000 times. It triples your chances of scoring on that drive, whether it's a field goal or a tutter. So, but run defense, you can tell that's what we're keying in on. Let's go to pass defense. All right, so we'll go opponent yards per pass attempt. And that number is 17th. So when you look at the numbers, we're top 10 in scoring defense. We're top 5 in running defense. And we're tied for 16th in passing defense, yards per pass attempt. We're taking away the run, and we're giving up the intermediate stuff by playing. And we know that by the comment that was just made just a second ago in the chat. What do we say? Why is Xavier McKinney playing so far back? Because he's protecting for the shot plays. We're also rushing the quarterback as if we're going to stop the run. So that's going to leave the intermediate area wide open. You guys remember 2 weeks ago, I talked about this on Chalk Talk. I said, teams are going to start seeing us play in this Tampa 2, and they're going to walk that mock down the seam, and they're going to hammer these digs on the right over top of the backers off of play action and underneath the safeties. And here it is. So now you need to make an adjustment, right? How do you adjust to that? You play less Tampa 2, and you play with a little more depth at your linebacker position, okay? It doesn't mean you bring your safety up and play zero coverage. If you do that, I'm just telling you, it's going to be explosive central. So you start playing the linebackers back a little bit. You guys remember I think it was a crucial 3rd down play, if I remember correctly, where they hammered the dig to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And on Chalk Talk, I was like, man, Eric Wilson needs to get a little more depth there, a little more depth. Well, why wasn't he deep enough? He wasn't deep enough because they ran play action, and he got pulled up into the play action that gave enough space for Goff to deliver an absolute seed for the first down, right? That's one example there. Another one was cover one man, where he obviously pushed Keyshawn, but hit us with a dig there. And again, the drop underneath wasn't deep enough to cover the dig. Why? We're playing the run. We're playing the run. That's why. So if we decide to go to a traditional, get a little bit away from the Tampa 2 look and press even more into the cover 3, cover 6, or cover 4, and we play with more depth with the backers, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to start running the rock. And that's an adjustment that's probably going to happen. And then when they start running the ball on us, there will be people on Twitter screaming, this run defense sucks, this run defense sucks. It's not that the run defense sucks. It's not that the pass defense sucks. It's real simple. You're scheming for specific aspects of other teams' game plans, and they get paid too. And that's where I come back to the conclusion of we need better play on the field. We need more out of these first-round picks. Because, again, it was even way back in the day, it was Dom Capers' fault. Get him out of here. It was Mike Pettin's fault. Get him out of here. It was Joe Barry's fault. Get him out of here. Now we're sitting here with Jeff Hafley in the 16th best passing defense. The problem is the players we have on the field, not all of them. And again, that's why I'm like always saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? It's not all of them. What you got to do is, all right, who's our nucleus? Who are the players? Okay, these are the guys we want to keep around. These are the guys that are playing strong. It don't even have to be good. It just needs to be above average. All right, who are the weak links? I'm not trying to be mean, but look, we got to get their replacements in here now. It doesn't mean we cut those players, because if you cut them, and you draft somebody, yeah, your ceiling might have gone up a little bit, but your floor went to the basement, right? So you got to be careful on how you do that. There's no approach that should look like that, you know. Now another thing, when you're playing with the backers underneath stopping the run, you're going to put yourself in situations where the team has to pass on third down. And then on those third downs, you pin your ears back, right? And you go after the quarterback. Keeping that safety back deep, you're going to see mistakes. There's at least 2 of Xavier McKinney's interceptions this year where the ball was overthrown. One was from Anthony Richardson, and the other one was from, I think, Matthew Stafford, if I remember correctly, where he's trying to go down the seam underneath the safety, and he overthrows. Why did he overthrow? Because you had good depth from the coverage, because we had him in a 3rd and long situation. When I say 3rd and long, I mean 3rd and 6 or more is typically considered 3rd and long. Some people say 7, but yeah. So let's look at what I was getting at there. When you're playing the safety deep like that, what are you going to get? You're going to get turnovers, right? You're going to get them making mistakes and giving the ball away. And also when you're playing zone predominantly, as we're playing cover 3 zone more than anything, eyes are always on the football. You get a lot more opportunities to punch the ball out, right? So let's go to takeaways per game and see where we sit now. We are now tied for 4th in the league with Houston at 1.8. Okay. So the takeaways were still top 5. Essentially what the defense we're running right now is we're going to stop the run, and we're going to focus on keeping everything in front of us and taking the ball away. That's what we're doing. So takeaways are huge. They're absolutely huge. If we continue to do that, and look, you want to know why Pittsburgh's so good this year? 2.1. They're averaging 2.1 takeaways per game. Minnesota, 2 takeaways per game. Buffalo, 2 takeaways per game. Houston 1.8, Green Bay 1.8, Chicago 1.6. We talked about how good that defense has been. Detroit 1.5. They're taking the ball away. I mean, you look at all these teams that are taking the ball away. Pittsburgh, playoff team. Minnesota, playoff team. Buffalo, playoff team. Houston, I think Houston's a playoff team. I could be wrong. We'll look at it here in a second. Green Bay, playoff team. Chicago, Detroit, playoff team. Chargers, playoff team. Colts, borderline. Denver, playoff team, I'm pretty sure. So you see, I mean, it's like 8 of the top 10 are playoff teams. Got to be able to take the ball away, no doubt about it. So, all right, so let's do this. We've stalled long enough, man. We're at the 47-minute mark. This is crazy. God, this show flew by. Holmes in the chat says, Clay, we have a very good roster. You could be the Bears. Hey, preach, brother, preach. You're right. I'm not saying the Packers roster is bad. I'm not saying that. But you can never, and I know you're not doing this, Holmes, and I damn sure know the front office isn't doing this. You never get to the point where you settle in and go, yep, that's good enough. It's never good enough, right? You're always trying to improve. And I'm just simply saying some of these positions that we see, man, that's a big eyesore. Things aren't working the way we want to. You got to go out and find those replacements without cutting those players, then work them in. So, and free agency is going to be awesome. The draft's going to be awesome. All that stuff this offseason is going to be a blast, man. Let's just see if we can go on a run here in the playoffs, though, and try to win the damn Super Bowl. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's get to the playoffs here real quick, as I'm just going to share the screen on the playoff machine. I don't mean to rhyme, but I do it all the time. Let's go up here. All right, so here's how the playoffs currently sit, guys. And this is after all the games that have been played today. It's already been updated. Matter of fact, let me just hit refresh just to make sure. All right, now we know we are good. So in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs are the number 1 seed. They're playing right now. They're sitting at 11-1. There's nothing that can happen tonight to knock them out of that 1 seed. So they're the 1 seed. Buffalo is the 2 seed at 10-3. Pittsburgh's the 3 seed at 10-3. Houston's the 4 seed at 8-5. Chargers are the 5th seed at 8-4. Baltimore is the 6th seed at 8-5, and the Denver Broncos are in the playoffs. So another team that's taking the ball away, they're in the playoffs at 8-5. If we move over to the NFC, which is way more important to us, Detroit, number 1 seed at 12-1. Number 2 seed's Philly at 11-2. Number 3 seed is the Seattle Seahawks at 8-5. Number 4 seed is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 7-6. The 5 seed is the Minnesota Vikings at 11-2. The 6th seed is the Green Bay Packers at 9-4. And the 7th seed is the Washington Commanders at 8-5. So obviously we still got a 1-game lead on the Commanders as they were in a bye week this week. And for the 6th seed. And when you look at the standings, let's go ahead and pop this down since we're done with that. Let's go to the standings real quick. Just take a quick glance at the NFC standings and kind of see what kind of lead we got here. So obviously today, I think these have been updated. I'm almost positive. Tampa's now in control in the NFC South. So that means the Falcons drop out of the NFC South lead, and they're now in the number 9 seed, which obviously is out of the playoffs. So when you look at it here, who are we competing with to make sure we hold on to the 6th seed? That's the Washington Commanders as it sits right now. In terms of making the playoffs altogether as the 7th seed, behind us right now is the LA Rams with their two wins behind us, okay? So we got a 2-game lead on the LA Rams, and we got a 3-game lead on the Falcons. Guys, that's some nice little cushion there. Now, obviously, the Seahawks are sitting at 8-5. They're leading the NFC West. We got them coming up. If you can get this win on the road in Seattle, man, you really, really like the way you're sitting here on this playoff run. And again, as we just showed you with the matchups we got right now, if the playoffs started right now, we will be going to Seattle and playing. Well, guess who we got this week? We got the Seattle Seahawks, right? So we're going to get a little sample of that if indeed that's the matchup we end up with. The other one it could end up being is going to Tampa, right? Or potentially going to Philly. So you want that seed to be as high as possible, although it's going to be tough to catch the Vikings. You're going to have to get the Vikings to slip up some point if you're going to try to catch them. Let's hold on to that 6th seed and play Seattle as opposed to Tampa, right? We've had a really, really bad experience with Tampa Bay Buccaneers here lately. So with the remaining schedule we got here, though, at Seattle, again, guys, that's going to be Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's going to be a lot of fun watching that game. Then you've got the next week, Monday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints coming to Lambeau. You know it's going to be really, really cold at Lambeau. That's going to be awesome. That's Monday Night Football on ESPN and ABC. Then week 17, we go to the Vikings, and that's going to be a 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. And then we got the Bears at home week 18 who are playing really, really bad football right now. You still can't overlook anybody, don't get me wrong. But the point is here that if you can go beat Seattle somehow, some way on the road, come back, beat the Saints, you get yourself in a real good spot where you can drop one to the Vikings and it not even probably affect your 6th seed, right? I'm not saying you want to lose the Vikings. We obviously want to win that game. But let's say the Vikings slip up, and I don't have their schedule. We don't have time to go grab it. Let's say the Vikings slip up, and right now they're sitting at, 11-2. So they got a 2-game lead on us. Let's say they slip up and lose 2 of their next 4 somehow, some way, and we win out. Let's say we win out. We could potentially take that 5th seed. But really the way it sits right now, I think I'd rather have the 6th seed if we're going to be playing Seattle as opposed to Tampa. That's just me personally. But hopefully all that makes sense. And that gives you kind of a rundown. Again, we wanted to hit the scores tonight. There's not a whole lot of Packers news, so I thought let's talk, go through the weekly slate here and talk about who played today, who won, how it affected our playoffs, give you the updated playoff picture on everything. And we hit a couple extra things too there with the team statistics. So with that being said, guys, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody. There's no sense of me continuing to talk. Appreciate everybody hanging out, man. There's a bunch of people. Hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. If you're watching on Twitter right now, go to my profile and you'll see the YouTube link there. Much easier interface on YouTube. We always suggest people go to YouTube so you can comment a lot easier. And it's a lot more interactive on there. So you click on that link, sub to the channel, turn the notifications on, and you'll know when we go live. And we go live every day, multiple times a day sometimes. So tomorrow we will be live at 8:30 a.m. Central for Good Morning Lambeau, bringing you all the latest news and notes around the Green Bay Packers and obviously the playoff push here as we move forward. I think tomorrow what I want to do in the morning, if we have time, is I want to jump in. We'll walk through Twitter, see what the latest news is, and we'll also jump onto PFF and see where the Packers players are ranking at each position and go, okay, is that a legit starting wide receiver? Is that a legit starting right guard? Is that whatever it may be, right? And kind of see how they stack up amongst other players across the NFL. Because, the reality is sometimes we look at the grades and we go, man, that's a bad grade. And then you go pull it and compare it to everyone else at his position across the league and go, he's 34th at, left end. Hark, he's a legit starting defensive end. And that's kind of, you compare that, across the league to other players at those positions, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Respect Orange said he's out of coffee, but you better run to the store, man. You better run to the store. Got to have that diesel in the morning, bro. United Bates, thanks, Clay. Appreciate it. Go Pack Go. Thank you, Bates. You're the man. And seriously, everybody in here, I see everybody. AFAM, Fred McFarley, Badger Trio, all you guys. There's too many to mention. Chris Ian. Listen, it's like a family in here. Absolutely love talking ball with you guys every day. This is it's an absolute blessing to be able to hang out and just talk Packers. So we'll see y'all tomorrow morning. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go Pack.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.